E.H.Visiak, pacifist, author, and lifelong admirer of Milton, is better known under his pseudonym of E.H.Visiak. However, one assumes that most people know Visiak not from any perusal of his work per se, but from reading about other people talking about how they peruse his work. For, despite being an oft-cited and oft-repeated name in various biographies, essays, and studies of the weird and fantastic in fiction, Visiak shares the faith of H.R. Wakefield in that his actual books are not easily accessible to the public beyond maybe a snippet that gets released in anthologies ad nauseum. Visiak, who apparently only wrote the few occasional scattered tales that never even found an anthology to this day, does not even have that luxury. His first notable novel, The Haunted Island from 1910, is available online, but it lacks supernaturalism, though surprisingly enough, it is an early pirate-themed mad scientist novel. The story is somewhat scatterbrained, however. The first half consists of a bunch of incidents which don't amount to anything. For example, a completely superfluous cameo by Francis Drake. The second half of the book, taking place on the island, never goes very much in depth, and it's over rather quickly. The mad scientist, Dr. Copernicus, doesn't even get to explain his motivation fully before just giving up on his evil plan after successfully getting the means to fulfill it, for no real reason beyond we are left to assume a sudden and completely uncharacteristic surge of empathy. Considering this character routinely likes to kill off his own experienced men for having missed an easily rectified and completely trivial errand, this comes off as quite out of nowhere. And it's rather pointless anyway, since the discovery that Dr. Copernicus made, specifically a bomb that he set off on the island, made the island volcano explode anyway, so this drive by redemption was narratively unnecessary, since he basically dies very shortly after. Visiak's 1929 novel Medusa, on the other hand, is often cited as a masterpiece of the supernatural form. Indeed, Karl Edward Wagner put it on his list of 33 best horror novels, though given the man put something as flawed and mishandled as The Cadaver of Gideon Wigg on there, that is not in and of itself any great honour. There are also points of similarities between both of these novels. Medusa and Island are both tales of a youth who escapes England on board of a ship following his own entanglement with the law. But where in Island Visiak manages to keep the theme going strongly and only bungles the ending, Medusa is sadly an instance where an impressive mid, end or culmination of the story is bogged down by a droning middle. The beginning of the novel is fine, with the main character going through many unfortunate events and tragedies in his youth and life that are spaced out during a period of many years, allowing one to think that perhaps this is going to go on for the rest of the novel as a sort of dark comedy of continuous death and misfortune. Sadly, that's not the case. The middle part, where Will, the main character, joins a certain Mr. Huxtable's sea expedition to find Mr. Huxtable's son, is the longest and most drawn out. Visiak finds it necessary to encumber his readers with many completely superfluous details about the various stops the ship makes along the way, and of the mundane sights and sounds one gets to see in the harbour. When the novel starts with Will killing his grandfather and beating a bully to death, one can't help but hope for something more exciting than spending several pages talking about a port town and how the shipyard there has a crane. The worst part of this section are the occasional moments where Will's benefactor, the aforementioned Mr. Huxtable, attempts to imprint some bogus philosophical crab-trap onto his protege. These are dull and tedious, and simply stretch out the book until something mildly interesting happens again. The appearance of a strange merman-like creature on board the ship is not given enough attention and is treated more like a curiosity, and the only way Visiak thought to be able to introduce the lore behind his entire book is given as an explanation, and that is delivered in a droning tone, going on and on about extrasensory drivel that honestly doesn't rise above the random hackneyed digressions on such themes from writers who have no business holding a pen. The climax itself is startling, yes, but it's not quite enough to balance out the tedious journey there, especially given how short it is. The ending itself is abrupt and feels like a concluding statement is missing, the story simply stopping in its tracks. It's sad that this novel's best parts are so weighed down by the travelogue portion of the story, so tedious, the author at several points finds it necessary to excuse himself for his own sluggishness, which makes me wonder why he just didn't think to not write it that way. If these things were cut out, trimmed down, maybe this novel could be an actual living classic, and not only something that is called upon by essayists who feel their moral obligation to follow the authorities. Maybe then one could obtain the English language edition of the book for less than £65, which, had I paid as much and not simply gotten the dirt cheap German translation, I would definitely not feel a worthwhile price.